Hello there, friends. Go ahead and gather around, maybe take a nice deep breath. Today, we are going to open something truly wonderful in this explainer. We're looking at two ancient, super important messages from the Bible. You can kind of think of them as special letters sent directly from heaven, just for you and me, to teach us all about love, bravery, and really how to shine our absolute brightest.
But before we actually open our letters, I want you to close your eyes for just a quick second. Imagine walking up to your mailbox and finding this magical, beautiful envelope with your exact name written right on it. So what do you think a heavenly letter would actually say to you? Do you think it would tell you how loved you are? Or maybe give you some secret instructions on how to be an even better friend? Well, you know, our Bible actually has letters exactly like this.
Okay, let's dive into this. Every single letter needs a sender, right? The sender of these messages is Jesus, but the letter describes him in this absolutely magnificent way. It says the sender is the one who holds the stars in his right hand and who walks right in the middle of these shiny golden candlesticks. Just try to picture that for a second. It really shows just how powerful, how bright, and how incredibly close he is to all of his people. Now, there is a very special number hidden in this letter, and it's the number 7. Jesus is holding exactly 7 stars and walking among exactly 7 golden candlesticks. And these actually represent 7 different churches. You know, groups of people who gathered together to learn and pray, just like we're doing right now. But today, we're only going to carefully open up the first 2 of these special letters.
So, letter 1, to the Church of Ephesus.
This first one is addressed to people living in a really busy ancient city called Ephesus. And right off the bat, Jesus starts with so much wonderful praise. He says, "I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience." Basically, the Ephesians worked really hard, and when things got tiring, they didn't just throw their hands up and give up. The letter also praises them because they were smart and they were brave. They didn't let liars trick them, and they actually stood up to evil, which is a pretty amazing thing to do.
But then, the letter takes a very gentle, kind of serious turn. We could call this a nevertheless moment. You see, even though the people of Ephesus were doing all the right chores, there was a tiny bit of a problem. Actually, a pretty big problem. The letter compares all their hard work against something very important that completely went missing. They had forgotten their first love.
So the crucial point is written right here. "Nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love." It's kind of like when you clean your room just because you absolutely have to, grumbling the whole entire time, instead of doing it with a happy heart because you really love your family. Doing good deeds without love, well, it just makes those actions lose all their wonderful sparkle. Thankfully, though, the letter gives them some super simple instructions on exactly how to fix it. First, they need to remember, like just think back to how much love they used to have. Second, they need to repent, which, is just a big word for saying you are truly sorry and you actually want to change. And third, act with love and do their first works again. Oh, and the letter also kindly reminds them that they are still doing good by rejecting the mean deeds of a group called the Nicolaitans. So it's not all bad news.
And look at this absolutely magnificent promise right at the end of the first letter. If they listen to the Spirit and learn to work with love all over again, Jesus says, "To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God." Just imagine a perfect, completely peaceful garden, and right there in the middle is the tree of life. That is the incredible reward for just doing things with a loving heart.
Let's move to and see how this builds in letter 2, to the church in Smyrna. Now, the people in Smyrna were facing a very different, honestly kind of scary situation, and they needed some special encouragement. Once again, Jesus introduces himself, but this time he says he is the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. Think about it. When you're facing scary things, it brings so much comfort to know that your leader has already been through literally the scariest thing of all, which is death, and he came out alive and victorious.
The letter to Smyrna mentions a really big word, tribulation. Let's just unpack that gently for a second. Tribulation simply means a time of trouble, difficulty, or just a really hard time. Jesus writes to them saying, "I know thy works and tribulation." He sees them, you guys. He knows they're going through a rough patch, and he just wants them to know for sure that they are not alone.
The people in Smyrna probably felt very small and, well, very poor. They were actually being picked on by people saying untrue, super mean things about them. The letter calls this group the synagogue of Satan. So from the outside looking in, the church looked poor and scared. But Jesus reveals this beautiful secret. He tells them, "But thou art rich." Because they had so much faith and love, they were actually incredibly rich on the inside.
Next, the letter tells them something that might seem a bit frightening at first glance. It warns them that a test is coming up. The devil will cast some of them into prison, and they're going to have tribulation for 10 days. But right before telling them all this scary stuff, Jesus gives them the single most important instruction: fear none of those things. He's basically telling them, look, I know it's going to be hard, but you are strong enough, and you absolutely do not need to be afraid.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate promise given to Smyrna because of their bravery. Jesus says, "Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life." Meaning, even if things get so hard that their lives are literally in danger, if they just hold on to their faith, they're going to be given a shining, eternal crown. It's such a great reminder that no matter what hard times we face, the reward for staying true to God is way greater than we could ever even imagine.
Now, both of these beautiful letters to Ephesus and Smyrna, they actually end with the exact same special instruction. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. This means we shouldn't just be listening with our physical ears, right? We need to listen closely with our hearts. We need to really understand what the Spirit is teaching us about keeping our love alive and, of course, being brave.
So, my dear friends, as we wrap up reading our special letters today, I really want to leave you with a question to think about. When you're doing your chores or helping out a friend, will you remember Ephesus and do it with a heart full of love? And when things get a little bit scary, will you remember Smyrna and be brave, knowing you're totally safe in God's hands? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today, and I hope you all have a wonderfully blessed, love-filled day.